This segment of Hak5 is brought to you by Audible.
Hey guys, so we're at the Iron Cactus, and since this whole thing is really a proof of concept, work in progress thing, we're all just kind of like having some guacamole and talking about like how would we go about making this more secure as hackers, since like how would we hack this and what's in 0.2? Yeah, so Chris, what was your idea?
Well, so we identified there's two weaknesses. The first weakness is if an attacker can actually spoof the drive identifier, then they can put their own shadow file on and wind up authenticating to your box. The second weakness is that you now have a USB stick with a plain text shadow file on it that if anybody finds it, they basically have your shadow file and can run John the Ripper or some other password cracker against it. So we decided basically that what you should do, and it solves both of those problems in one fell swoop, is just completely symmetrically encrypt the shadow file that's sitting on the USB stick. So we were talking about some of the implementation details of that, and Adi totally had some ideas that about the implementation, how we should use it, maybe using GPG. So
yeah, that was before I spilled salsa on my pants. So
yeah, but if you don't have salsa in your pants, are you really hacking?
I don't know. I don't know what hacking is. I just heard about these comportor things. So so what we're gonna do for 0.02 or 0.2 is create a daemon. The daemon goes and looks for a USB device being plugged in. There's a cool benefit to this because we don't need the same USB device. Now you can move your shadow file across different devices, so you have redundancy and backup.
Oh, so we're not tied to the serial ID of that thing, which is great, just because I know that like a lot of USB drives are pretty resilient to going through the washing machine.
Right.
But in the off chance that this thing really does die, it could kind of suck.
Well, yeah, devices get lost, confiscated, broken, whatever. So we become agnostic as to the actual device, and in turn we end up using GPG with an AES-256 cipher to symmetrically encrypt our shadow file. So it's good because we address both of the concerns of the shadow file being tampered with or whatever, and basically once the USB device gets plugged in, we just try to decrypt. We find the shadow file and just try to decrypt it with a hard-coded key. So you can make the key whatever you want. So that way it's resistant to any kind of attack against breaking the crypto on it, because AES-256.
But then you've got an AES-256 key built into your UDEV script.
No, it's not UDEV anymore. It's a daemon, right?
Oh, right, the daemon.
Right, yeah. I mean, generally, best practice is to not hard-code keys and passwords, but you've got full disk crypto, so even if you hard-code the GPG key, it's not really a big deal. At least
because the only way why is that?
Because the attack would then be to try to compromise your physical device and then get access to the source code of your daemon and see, or your config file or whatever, wherever your GPG key is housed. But the only way to do that is going to be remote exploit, dumping memory, and then grabbing it out of memory. So
at which point you're already hosed.
Yeah, you're still owned anyways, because if you've already been remote exploited, then they can modify and add their own UDEV rule in for their own USB device. So whatever. So yeah, so we go to a daemon, we go to AES-256 using GPG, and Chris and I kind of agreed that we don't have any good reasons to roll our own AES-256 implementation as opposed to using GPG, but I think Chris has more to add.
Yeah, so I mean, you could, if you wanted to, you could write your own daemon that had the crypto libraries, just use them yourself. But yeah, we definitely decided that GPG, just going with something that's solid and tested and already exists on boxes, is the way to go. That way you don't break any of the implementation details. I did want to add one more thing. In our original documentation of this, we had a symlink from the Etsy shadow file over to the device. There's no reason to have that anymore. The daemon can now just move the shadow file into place, and you should be all set. So you don't want to leave that symlink there just so that it can be exploited in the future.
Well, now guys, does this not mean that you could potentially have a actual shadow file on there that's bogus and then have it replaced by the daemon?
Well, why would you even bother?
I don't know, maybe it's an emergency login or a full BS login?
Because yeah, the fake shadow file already assumes that you've been compromised and that they have access to something.
Right, or there is a certain caveat here. So if somebody can, if you plug your thing in and the daemon swaps that shadow file into place and you authenticate in, someone could try and take your box down right then. Well, I guess then you've got full disk encryption, so you should be all set. You're pretty much all set in this case.
Yeah, remote exploit is the only way, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I gotta say, like,
something that registers and dumps memory.
like on the pseudocode and just the theory level, I'd say 0.2 pretty much has it nailed. And really, it's all just about like cleaning it up, prettying it up, and making it easier to use after that, right?
It's all about making it.
It's all about what?
Actually creating it.
Oh, creating it. Yeah. There's that small part.
So in this case, if you take the box down, right? So you've just plugged it in. It's copied your shadow file over into place so it can authenticate, and somebody takes the power down in your box. The two-factor authentication is gone because the shadow file is on your box. So really what you need is the second you've logged in, that same daemon should be pulling the wtemp file or whatever the login database so that it can then wipe the shadow file.
No. 80 doesn't think that's gonna work.
This is all live, by the way. We're like totally.
Yeah, we're brainstorming right now.
All right. So instead, what you do is you decrypt in place on the USB drive. You keep the SIM link there, and then you decrypt in place, and then you wipe the shadow file once you've done your authentication. So that way, shadow file never ends up on the host. It only ends up on the USB device, and you wipe it as soon as it's done authenticated.
Okay, so if I'm an attacker, I just have to know where I've dumped that shadow file to. So all I have to do is just put decrypt the shadow file in the same place for the SIM link, and you'd get the authentication.
Well, no, because of the PGP.
No, but I can put in whatever shadow file I want. As long as I know you're SIM linking to file ABC, then basically. Okay. So we're not syncing up.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
We'll have to.
You know what? We're gonna need a couple more cocktails to figure this out.
0.3.
0.3. We've got this. Stay tuned. Yeah. Cheers.
Cheesy guy.
Roy Rogers.
Only suckers pay full price, but if you love alternative apparel brands like Kid Robot, Hurley, and Stussy, but ain't wasting all your cash on them, listen up, because you can score these premium brands at up to 80% off every day. See, there's a new invite-only shopping club just for guys called Jack Threads, serving up skate, street, surfwear brands at prices that'll melt your brain. And there's usually a waiting list to join, but if you head over to jackthreads.com/hak5, you're gonna get an instant access to their killer hookups. So go on over now. Oh, and did we mention that it's free to join? That's right, hit up jackthreads.com/hak5 and you'll instantly start saving without even to leave your house. No fireball in the sky that burns like the lava in Metroid. It'll just be like, boom, savings right there where you are now.
Yeah, so we're still out doing the thing, you know, just brainstorming, kind of figuring out how to make it all better. And let's get to some of the caveats. Chris, what'd you come up with as far as the black hat is concerned?
0.3. Why does it gotta be? Why is
Why is it 0.3?
I would to be black hat.
Yeah, you get to be all black.
Gray.
See, look, you get the black
I'm
hat.
sunglasses then. I'm muscles glasses.
Uh-oh.
Not muscles part.
So there's an exploit in 0.3
Proof of concept.
in the proof of concept. So basically, if the daemon winds up writing the shadow file to a known location on the USB stick, then all an attacker has to do is basically put a cooked shadow file in that location, decrypt it. It doesn't matter. They plug it in. They authenticate against it quicker than the daemon can replace it, and they wind up gaining access to your system using their shadow. So we have a solution to this.
Yeah,
Well,
actually,
but I thought that was the whole point, though, of the of having it PGP encrypted. It's like, so what?
right. But then, like, when you're decrypting to a known file, if you just like stick something else in there that you know, like, it doesn't matter. So there are actually two workarounds. One I just thought of.
Oh,
and the other
okay,
one,
good.
The other one
Good.
that
What'd you
we
think of?
talked about. Okay, so the first one that we talked about when we were sitting there is, okay, I'll just dynamically name the file. The daemon can just say, like, here's going to be, you know, make a GUID, whatever you want to do, some like sufficiently long and random name. Here is the name of the file that we're going to decrypt the encrypted shadow file to. So that's one. Then the second solution that I just thought of is check the return code on GPG. So if you go ahead and do your decryption and it fails, then, like, you know, you could say, like, oh, that's, like, it's not legit. and I guess you could check for the presence of the file being there first. So you could say, like, does this shadow file exist? Like, we know that the target's going to be mount shadow, right? The shadow file, the decrypted version is going to be shadow.
Right, and on the USB, it's like
so you could say,
shadow.gpg.
yeah, you could stat and say, like, hey, is that shadow file there? And then if it is, you could wipe it or whatever.
Right.
And then you could say, like, okay, now we're going to do our decryption, and if the decryption fails, like...
Although we might have a race condition there, right? So then it's a question, can the attacker, like stage their stuff to the point where they plug the thing in and they hit enter is quicker than the demon can actually, like, wipe
and it fires and interjects.
Right.
Okay, so that was 0.3. So then, Chris came up with...
So how do you attack against that now, then?
Yeah, so now we've got... So where we're at is we've got the random file name on the USB drive that is a decrypted copy of Shadow, Sailor Jerry's.
So this problem is just a specialized case of the last problem, right? So last time it was a known file, we replaced the known file. This time we don't know the file.
You can't brute force it.
Right, you can't brute force it, right? But this time we don't know the file, but it doesn't matter because what we can do is basically plug the thing in, wait until you can kind of see access on it or you expect the daemon is like written to it. So this is the case where, like, you know, I'm going to punch Dave in the face, I'm going to grab the USB stick, and I'm going to, like, stick it in the side of the machine, wait until it writes the file, and then yank the stick, and I know what the what that long
because
file name is. So now I just replace that with my cooked shadow file. And
because it wrote back to the thumb drive with the random file name, right?
Well, but the daemon is going to wipe that decrypted file. So the problem is that you're actually receiving a decrypted copy of the shadow file.
Yeah,
so
that's
that's
no
really
good.
the attack. Really, is more so throwing it into something like John or Hashcat or whatever to do the cracking. So. But like we're trying to protect against that, right? So then the counter to that is instead of writing to the device, what we're going to do is dynamically allocate in RAM like a tempfs partition. So it doesn't even have to be big either because shadow file is small. So you do like a 4 meg tempfs all in memory and dynamically decrypt dynamically named shadow file into that. So it's all in RAM on the host instead of on the USB drive, and then you create the daemon creates the symlink to the dynamically generated and decrypted tempfs file, and we're off and running. But Chris brought up the bigger question, which really is...
To which I reply, what about cold boot attacks?
Yeah.
But I guess you're kind of already boned in the case of a cold boot attack anyway.
Right, and I did mention dumping RAM earlier, so it's kind of the same thing. But you had the bigger question, which is kind of really like the what is the meaning of life question.
Yes.
What are we really guarding against? What are we really fixing?
So this comes down to what is it that two-factor authentication really buys somebody, and two-factor authentication is the asset it's trying to protect. Is basically if somebody's lost one factor of their authentication, two-factor authentication usually protects against the loss of one of those factors, or at least reduces the window of vulnerability when one of those factors of authentication is lost. Now, this is great in web stuff if somebody gets a phished password or some sort of attack like that. But on the actual physical device, if you're using a good password on your physical device, it's not exactly clear. There's certainly a security benefit, but it's not exactly clear that that's worth the inconvenience trade-off. So, if...
Yeah, but you're just assuming that your users have strong passwords. We're talking about regular users here.
Right. So
your password is beef.
So like if this is for one of us, typically your password's going to be pretty strong when you're logging into your system, and unless somebody's got a camera station to grab your password, the two-factor authentication's not really that great a protection for a skilled person. But if you're a sysadmin, if you've got users that aren't choosing good passwords on their laptops, and you're afraid that those things are going to get brute forced by a dictionary attack or something like that, this two-factor authentication thing should help protect against that type of attack if you have those kinds of users. So
cool. What would you say?
What are we doing with our lives?
Well, we're hacking all the things and drinking all the booze.
Right. So yeah, it's fun. Like, it's a cool implementation. It's a neat idea, and we hope you'll enjoy version 0.4 for its first release. Skipping all the previous iterations.
Yeah, so don't listen to anything we said before. Listen to what we're saying now.
Right. Yeah.
Except for when we come back later and realize, oh shit, wait a sec.
Yeah. So when we come out with 0.5 and 0.6.
But that's going to take more rum.
Right.
So
yeah,
we should get to that.
Sailor Jerry's, and Chris will need more whatever he was drinking.
So remember,
drink all the booze, hack all the things, kill all the humans. So it's 3 new laws of robotics.
Wait, what?